What's up, y'all? Welcome to 2021. Man, it's so good to be back with you talking worship leading, worship ministry. Um, Man, so good to be here. Hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you were able to catch up on our 2020 interviews. I was really excited to release those as this podcast. And obviously, as we're doing today, we'll continue the podcast into 2021. We'll continue it all year and kind of see how that goes. And most of the time, I'll be interviewing somebody and hearing from local church worship leaders. And occasionally, like today, I'll just hop on here and share some thoughts on my own. And let me know what you think. Let me know, if you're really loving the interviews or if you'd like to hear more just thoughts like I'm sharing today. Let me know your thoughts. I want to do what's best for you, what's going to help you the most. So let's go ahead and dive into today's topic, which is vision. Now, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot at the beginning of the year. I know you've probably heard a lot of podcasts, read a lot of blogs, whatever, about vision, about goal setting. I get that, but I think it's an important thing. I'm a big vision person, big goal setter, kind of a goal setting nerd, and I might talk a little bit about that as we continue today. But I want to get really practical today with vision because I think sometimes we talk about it and we start talking about vision statements. So we start talking about 10 years in the future, and that's important to do. It's important to line things out and be really clear and to look at things in the future. But it's also important to look at what's this next year going to look like. And so that's what I wanted to do. Want to do today. So for our purposes, we'll define vision as an ideal image of the future, an ideal image of the future. So, what do you want to see? What do you want to see? That's all you have to answer. Is if you can answer that question, then that's vision, right? So I know that's for someone like me and for a lot of creatives out there. I have to be able to answer a question like that. Otherwise, I'll just be, my head's in the clouds a lot. So that'll kind of get me focused. What do I want to see? For me personally, my worship team, I'm looking to recruit more. So I'd like to add, 3 or 4 people to my worship team this year at least. And I'd also like to add to my sound and tech team this year. I'm over that too. And so those are things that I'm looking to do. I'd also personally, I'd like to do a little more songwriting. And then I have other goals outside of that personally and, with worship leader coaching and things like that. But for my church, a lot of my goals are focused on recruiting and then a little bit of songwriting for the church. And it can be, that easy. Like sometimes we overcomplicate it and we think it has to be this huge thing. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. Some of you, might want to see, families worshiping together more. Some of you might want to see more physical expression in worship. You might want to see more songwriting on your worship team. You might want to see more of your worship team ministering off stage. Just ask yourself in different areas. So, me personally, my worship team, and as a church, what do you want to see in those areas? And if you don't know, if you need help with that, I mean, there's a couple different groups you can ask. Like one, you can ask your pastor, your supervisor at the church, like, um, what do you want to see from worship ministry? I've been in a spot like that before where I didn't really know, the steps I wanted to take. And so I started asking other people, where should we go with this? And you'll be surprised at the answers you might get. You can also ask your worship team, like, what do you want to see? Where do you guys want to go? Where do you want to grow this year? And again, you'll be surprised at the answers you get. I've had people tell me they wanted more teaching, like they wanted more of a small group time in our rehearsals. And so we built that in. I've had people tell me they wanted to do more songwriting. And so we built that in. You never know what people will say. And, one thing I learned to do early on was to just get everybody in a room and talk. I had a mentor one time. I was going to a new church, and so I was thinking about vision and goal setting a lot. And I kind of asked him where to begin. He said, "Buy everybody pizza." So what do you mean buy everybody pizza? Like what does that have to do with this? He said, "Buy everybody pizza. People will eat and they'll talk. Just hang out together. So get together with your team sometime in January or February and buy them pizza. Buy them buy them a meal. Hang out and ask them questions. And when you do that, vision will just start to happen. It'll come. Just, have a pen and paper with you and just kind of jot things down once in a while. And if people ask you what you're doing, tell them what you're doing. I'm really just trying to, create this vision for our team, see where we want to go. Because we're leading people, right? We're leading people, so we want to take them somewhere. So get some insight, write a couple of things down, and definitely write it down. There's all kinds of stuff out there that'll tell you why you should write goals down. And, I don't think there's any magic to it. For me, I have to write goals down because I'll forget them. I have a lot going on in my life. And so I'll forget them. So goals for me at the church, I have a marker board in my office where I just write things down. I put different categories by it. So I'll put like, worship team, sound team, live stream, things like that, and then I'll have some goals listed for each of those things. And I write it down so that, they're at the top of mind all the time. Like I can, I look at that board every time I sit down at my desk. And so I'm always seeing those goals. And so that reminds me, oh, yeah, I've got to do that. I've got to do that. I've got to do that. So come up with some vision, ask some people, write it down. Okay, this is what I want to see. And then ask yourself, um, how am I going to do it? So the question that I love, I heard this from a guy named Michael Hyatt. He's like a leadership and business coach. He always asks the question, what would have to be true to make this happen? What would have to be true to write more songs for my church? What would have to be true to see my worship team ministering off stage? What would have to be true to see more families worshiping together? What would have to be true to see more physical expression from my church? What would have to be true to make this vision come to pass? And then you can create a plan. When you ask that question, you start to create a plan. Okay, so for me to write more songs for my church, well, I need to write some songs, right? For me to see more families worshiping together, then I need to have kids in my service, probably. I need to talk with family members or with families about that. To see more physical expression in worship. Well, I need to teach on why that's important, probably. So then you start to create a plan. You say, okay, what have to be true? Okay, I need to teach. Well, then I need to figure out what I'm going to teach, and I need to probably schedule when I'm going to teach it, right? So start to do that. Start to say, okay, I need to put things on my calendar. I need to schedule time to write. I need to schedule, or I need to write down what I want to teach on. I need to communicate expectations to my worship team. I need to communicate with moms and dads in my church, and with my, maybe it's the family ministries or the kids pastor, about families worshiping together. I need to uh, uh, and create a plan to make that happen. And so figure out what you need to do to make it happen, and then ask yourself, how can I keep this front of mind? I already talked a little bit about the marker board for worship leader coaching. I have a big calendar in my living room at home. It's like a 25 by 36 calendar. It's got the entire year on it, and I write stuff on there. And then on the kind of edges of the calendar, I've got different post-it notes and pages clipped on there of different goals that I'm working towards, and almost like a vision board, if you've seen those. Like, that's what I have. I have that sitting in my living room. If I have company over, I get rid of it, but for the most part, it sits right by a bookshelf, and that way I see it all the time, because I do a lot of stuff for worship leader coaching from my couch. And so I see it a lot, and that helps keep those things front of mind. I also use my reminders app on my phone a lot. Like, I put reminders for everything in there. I put reminders for groceries. I put reminders to text people, see how they're doing. I put reminders to schedule things on Instagram. I put reminders to do these podcasts. I put reminders for everything in my phone, because I need it to pop up and go, hey, you have to do this. Actually, one went off just a couple of minutes ago for Instagram, so that you guys are getting content there too. So um, use the reminders app, use a calendar, use a notebook, write things down. I use notebooks at different times. I don't use them all the time, but I have to write things down to remember it. So find whatever tool works for you, and it's okay to try different things. I would say find one or two, try it, and see what works. But really, the point is, go after something this year. If you set a goal, create some steps to get there and actually try, you'll probably hit that goal. If not, you'll get really, really close to it. Um, and that's so important as a leader to actually lead people places. Don't just wish things would happen, like make things happen. Create a vision. Involve your team in the vision. It doesn't have to just be you as a leader. You're ministering with people, right? We build, teams of ministers, not bands of musicians. And so, get your team of ministers together and talk about vision. Have them help you create the plan, and then delegate things to people. Right? If you're maybe you're like me and you want to recruit more. Well, ask a couple people on your worship team to be recruiters. Make it their job to go talk to people on Sunday morning after service, and find musicians and find worshipers. Maybe if you want to write more songs, maybe you get your team involved. You say, hey, you, who wants to be the songwriting coordinator? And that person, pairs people up for co-writes. Maybe need to delegate. I don't know. I don't know what else you need to delegate, but man, get people involved in what you're doing. You're not going at this alone. You have a team around you. Yeah, talk with your team, create a plan, use whatever tool you need to, whether it's a calendar, a reminder app, whatever, and go after your goal. Lead people somewhere. And when you do that, you'll have an incredible year. You'll start reaching goals. And if you start now, man, I'm telling you, there's been so many times in my life where I've had an idea, a thought in my head, something I wanted to work towards, and I thought about it for 3 months. And then that 3 months goes by, and I look back and go, man, if I would have just started, if I would have created a plan and just gone with it, I'd be done by now. I'd have that six pack by now. I wouldn't have a six pack, but I'd be so much closer to my goal if I would have actually started 3 months ago instead of thinking about it for 3 months. Listen, don't fall into that trap. Don't just think about doing great things. Go do great things. Go do something, with your life, with your ministry, with your worship team, with your church. Lead people somewhere. Thanks for listening today, guys. So excited for 2021, for what's going to happen in our churches, for what God is doing. If you need help with anything, if you need coaching on this, if you go to worshipleader.me/coaching, I think yes, worshipleader.me/coaching. You can schedule a coaching call. I'd love to sit down with you and talk vision and talk goal setting. Um, if you just want to share your goals with someone, I'd love to hear them, and I'll share them with all of the worship leader coaching community. Send me an email, caleb@worshipleader.me, or send me a message on Instagram at worshipleadercoaching. I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to know your goals. Love to know what you are working towards and how I can help. You guys are awesome. We'll see you next week with a brand new interview.